fire, fire, fire. You guys all know about Rings of Power, man. It's time to admit Rings of Power is doing Tolkien lore better than the movies. Chat. God help us. Bro, can you imagine saying that to Tolkien's face? I bet you he'd be like, these damn kids. Give me the copy they're taking. Let's read it out loud, chat. Let's read it all. I am giving my honest, unbiased opinion. I'm just kidding, I'm very biased, but I'm gonna try. And this is from a year ago. Well, like barely a year, let's say like 9 months. Okay, here's a take that could get one canceled faster than streaming platforms cancel fantasy shows after one season. Nobody's canceling you, man, you fucking clown. Despite a major departure from canon. That's a good start. The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is doing Tolkien lore better than Lord of the Rings movies. This is so painful. Can we get through this without me cringing? Can we not, please? I know. One does not simply make a statement like that, but before you point your sword, bow, and axe at me, hear me out. I am obsessed with the Peter Jackson movies, which remain the GOAT, okay? But simultaneously, I can also accept that the trilogy altered much of what Tolkien purists would call canon. I mean, yeah, obviously they had to change some things because it's a movie, but like, they still held their truth to the books as much as they could. When you adapt from a book to a screenplay, you have to change certain things. That's why it's so hard. All right, this is why it is absurd that people aren't as open-minded about what Rings of Power is doing with its adaptation, especially as its themes are better homage to Tolkien's deep lore than the movies ever were. Okay. The Lord of the Rings movies were not true to the canon either. I have no issues with how they changed things from the books to fit the story that they were trying to tell. Sure, Glorfindel was robbed when they gave Arwen the role of saving Frodo from the Nazgul. We never got Tom Bombadil. True. Additionally, while book Aragorn proudly owned his lineage as the heir of Isildur and worked towards reclaiming his birthright, movies Aragorn's internal struggle made the story more effective for non-readers. True, agree. Even something as basic as timeline crunching, where Frodo didn't have to wait 17 years for Gandalf to return and confirm the truth about Bilbo's ring, made sense when you realize it's possible to depict Tolkien's elaborate timelines. Also very true, which is why it's hard to make a screenplay that is very much a parallel to the books. Totally agree. Nothing wrong with that. Cope? I mean, it's not cope. It's not. It's... let me hear him out. As such, some of the most redundant criticisms against the Rings of Power not sticking to canonical portrayals of characters and compressing timelines like Numenor's political upheaval happening at the same time as the Siege of Eregion and the War of the Elves and Sauron need to be dismissed, as it makes the show's storytelling more effective. As for how in touch it is with the lore, let's get into it. I completely disagree with this part, though. Again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, because I've said this before. People can sniff out, like, this disingenuous woke bullshit instantly in almost, like, any show or movie, because it always has, like, the same nonsensical, self-important writing. Like, people don't like Rings of Power because it deviates from Tolkien lore. They don't like it because it's, like, the slop that's trying to subtly change the beloved classic to fit modern social standards. Like, I completely agree with them saying that they had to change it in order to make it, you know, an actual movie, but I don't agree with them saying, oh, well, you know, it's because of this. Yeah. Canon or not, Rob's writing was just as bad. We'll get to it, don't worry. It's unironically such garbage. There's a difference between changing something to adapt it versus changing something to self-insert. Thank you. But orcs have feelings! Oh, don't remind me. Okay. The Rings of Power may deviate from canon, but it is still grounded in lore. Okay. Since season 1, the portrayal of Galadriel as a warrior and commander of Gil-galad's northern armies, the absence of her husband Celeborn, has bugged many Tolkien purists. They hated that Galadriel went to Numenor and tangled with Sauron and the Elven rings were forged before the other rings. They've also spoken out against Anatar. Wait, hold on, let me read that again. They hated that Galadriel went to Numenor and tangled with Sauron and that the Elven rings were forged before the other rings. Why did you do that? Isn't the whole point is that they were all forged pretty much around the same time? Hello? Ugh, I hate it already. Okay. They've also spoken out against Anatar being present at the siege of Eregion instead of Sauron attacking Eregion after having forged the One Ring, and learning of Celebrimbor's betrayal. Then, of course, there's the biggest digression of them all. Why was an Istar that looked suspiciously like Gandalf on Middle-earth as early as the Second Age and traveling to Rune? And isn't Istar like the godlike wizards? I forget. They're the godlike wizards that... Yeah, okay, yeah. I've never hated a person more in my life. I don't hate, I just... Angel wizards? Yes, thank you. They were like angel wizards. But wait, did they actually do that? Did they write in some like this like hold on, I'm gonna keep reading. The more Rings of Power built on its mythology, the more critical Tolkien fans disliked it. The Stores never lived in the desert. They were river folk. Sauron, as shapeless black goo, is stupid. He was a powerful Maya. Well, a god, if I remember correctly. I'm kind of a Lord of the Rings nerd, but it's mostly like from the past. And Sauron could never have seduced Galadriel, and their relationship could never have... And Sauron could never have seduced Galadriel, and their relationship could never have romantic undertones, because Galadriel was married to Celeborn and had a daughter. Did they actually do that? They wrote in some shitty half-ass romance between Galadriel and Sauron of all people? I'm gonna throw up. This is some straight ass chat. What are we smoking? You didn't know that? No! I knew that she was a Mary Sue, but like, this is horrible. Did they even read the Silmarillion? Nope. Nope, they just make up their own fucking fanon. But you know what's crazy to me? Like, I would write fanon lore for things that I like, you know, warrior cats and all that bullshit. Like, every little kid does it, right? If they get into creative writing, they start doing that with books. I read fucking books, and I wanted it to be accurate to, like, whatever I was writing. I feel like that's not a crazy thing to do. Teenager Reddit fanfic level of writing? It's not even that. It's like, when you're a teenager, you don't understand the intricacies of a book, right? Like, you don't think very deeply. But these are adults writing this. Like, we aren't ever getting a good show again, are we, chat? Modern writers are, like, so creatively bankrupt that they only know how to churn out slop. It is so freaking over. However, what is often overlooked in these parroted criticisms and rigid adherence to canon, I like that they frame it this way too. It's like, you have to have rigid adherence to canon to be a real fan. If you don't do that, you're a fucking nerd. Is that the Rings of Power borrows heavily from Tolkien's writing, especially his many obscure drafts of different timelines, events, and character arc suggestions. The lore was confusing in many places, and even his son Christopher Tolkien, who compiled and completed some of his father's works, admitted in books like Unfinished Tales that there was no definitive version for many of the stories. For example, yes, the wizards only arrived in Middle-earth in the Third Age, but there are some writings in which Tolkien wrote that they could have arrived in the Second Age too. Is this gonna be like how the entire article goes? Is this what we're gonna use to defend this like dog shit modern slop writing? We're gonna just say, well, actually, Tolkien had all these like super cool hidden notes and these like writings that didn't actually make it into the official book. So that would prove that he would actually like our slop. This is such a bad argument. You are such a disingenuous little freak. Yeah, man, actually, Tolkien would have loved wholesome Chungus orcs and invented storylines that didn't happen. Totally, man. I hate this so much. Like, I like Lord of the Rings a lot. This is so cringe. And this is like the same type of mental illness, of the people that like to say like, oh, well, Goku and Superman would be on my side of X political topic, or like Hatsune Miku would support Palestine. Like you have fucking brain rot, sir or ma'am. It's just assumptions. Yes, dude, it's so cringe. You're like self-inserting. I get what they're trying to say, but I can also understand what they're trying to defend with this. Wolverine affirmations for stronger bones. Stop! Actually, it wasn't the vibranium or whatever in his claws. It's like affirmations that make his claws stronger. Yeah, titanium claws, vibranium. Okay. The Rings of Power teases out different interpretations that are still rooted in Tolkien's writing. Okay. Tolkien never really details what happened with the Dwarven Rings of Power, other than they amplified their greed, nor does he... Oh my god, I have so much to say about this, but I'm gonna carry on. Nor does he write much about Rune or what Sauron was up to in those long periods that he'd disappear from action, like after the fall of Morgoth and after the One Ring was cut off from his finger by Isildur. It's all about filling in the gaps with imagination to tell an engaging story. No, it's not. That's what the Silmarillion is for, too. So when the Rings of Power chooses to fill these gaps with an interesting interpretation and some new original characters like Adar, inspired by Tolkien's tidbits, here it is, about the First and Second Ages, it's a fantastic expansion of the story while still respecting the lore. No, it's not. You're gaslighting me again. Just because there's a time gap where Tolkien doesn't specifically say what happens doesn't mean you get to creatively interpret what he would have wanted to happen during that time and say, yep, he would have agreed with me. Dude, that's like saying like, whoa, you left your like front door open, bro? Well, you must be inviting me inside so I can shit on your coffee table. What a fucking terrible fucking argument. I hate this so much. Time gap equals I can do whatever I want. It's canon, guys. Thank you. I hate that shit. He would have agreed with me. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm going feral mode. Okay, deep breath, Alana. It's fine. Take a sip of your gamer subs. Take the character of Arondir, the Sylvan Elf, for example, who is the most Tolkien-esque elf there ever was. Okay. His scenes are steeped in deep reverence of trees and nature, and the scene with the Entwife in Season 2 is so unquestionably and movingly Tolkien. That's your interpretation, but sure. It's impossible to understand how there's still any criticism of his character. It's hard to see it. It's hard to see it as anything but racial profiling of an actor of color. Much about the trees, the elves, and the Ents wasn't a part of the Lord of the Rings movies, but Rings of Power makes excellent use of its format to slow down and bring you these themes that were present but not as pronounced in Jackson's interpretation. Okay. Similarly, Tolkien had indicated in multiple instances that Galadriel, whose mother called her Nerwen, meaning man-maiden, was of Amazonian build and would often participate in athletic feats, defeating other elves. So why would it be hard to believe that she was a warrior who could be a commander of an elven army? Sauron killed her brother Finrod, and knowing the Noldor elves' inclination towards revenge, is it that baseless to believe? Sorry, I'm being autistic a little bit. Noldor's elves' inclination towards revenge, is it that baseless to believe Galadriel would take up arms against her brother's killer and becomes obsessed with her dark mission when she was still much younger, only to have these wars and experiences shape her into the wise Lady of Light that she eventually becomes? Tolkien may not have explicitly written this version of her, but he certainly planted the seeds. God damn it, every time, man! Every freaking time! with the I'm gonna interpret it. Yeah, I'm gonna interpret it. Give an inch, take a mile. It's hard to believe because both topics you just brought up are DEI. You put a black character where traditionally there wouldn't be one, and you made a woman who was never described as a warrior in the original series or in the books the commander of an army. You're checking all of the woke modern slob boxes. You're just... People aren't retarded. They connect the dots and see what you're doing. Again, this is my opinion, chat. If I remember correctly, I don't think Tolkien explicitly said all the elves are white. I think he described the ones that we see in his books as fair-skinned, but those are just the ones we saw. So technically there could be black elves. Let's just like entertain the thought for a moment then. I'm not gonna lie, if some of the elves in the original Peter Jackson's films were black, I don't think people would have cared. Because they were trying to tell an honest story, and they clearly had no political virtue signaling intentions. I would have been fine with that. I don't care. The reason people care is because you're not putting in a black character for the purpose of telling a story. You're checking a box and everyone can tell. And then you instantly call everyone racist for pointing it out or criticizing it. It's the same stupid, tiresome playbook again and again. Like, am I wrong? I don't feel like I'm wrong. Because the movies were good? Well, that too. I mean, this was ass. So yeah, I guess people are going to shine a light and point it out more. There are flaws to the original Lord of the Rings movies. Genuinely, there are. But because it's such an amazing movie, people overlook it. Yeah, there's some continuum problems and people criticize that it's not one-to-one to the book, but it's still an amazing movie. And still holds up to this day. Where was I? Planting the seeds. Every time an adaptation changes something from the source, it is fair to question if the changes were merited and how much they play by the rules of the author's creation. By compressing thousands of years of timelines and depicting the fall of Numenor at the same time as Sauron's deception and Gandalf's arrival, The Rings of Power orchestrates a collective fall of the races of Middle-earth, while a chosen few heroes arise and a true emissary of the Valar arrives. The fall and salvation begin simultaneously in a battle of wills between good and evil. That is absolutely in line with Tolkien's writing, except it's not, because Tolkien's writing was actually good. Jesus Christ. What a shot, by the way. What a shot. The dark romance twist, just Sauron and Galadriel's relationship. Oh, stop, man. Where the Dark Lord is constantly trying to seduce the Lady of Light into becoming his queen toes the line quite a bit. That is such an understatement. That's so crazy that you'd say toes the line, by the way. And yet, it still falls within the realm of interpretation of what it is in the books. Galadriel does talk about Sauron always trying to claw his way into her mind, even though the door was shut. That doesn't mean... Oh my god. These people are so low IQ. It's crazy. Creating a different interpretation from this obsession of his also raises the stakes and builds on this character's lore to make them more interesting. Ah, yes. Romance. More interesting. Charlie Vickers' portrayal of Sauron and his chemistry with blah 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 Galadriel and Celebrimbor has been phenomenal. I can say I understand Sauron much better than before. Okay, if you insist. Sure. It is easy to sell for textbook versions of iconic characters like Sauron, Elrond, Elendil, but that would make them appear impenetrable and untouchable as they did in the Lord of the Rings movies. The way Rings of Power imbues them with flaws and grounds their epic stories in human moments brings us closer to these characters. The friendship between Elrond and Durin isn't merely a deeper insight into the psyche of elves and dwarves, but also lends history to Elrond speaking harshly of dwarves during the Council and the Fellowship of the Ring. Elrond and Durin's relationship draws a beautiful parallel to Legolas and Gimli's camaraderie. See, again, they just keep doing this shit where they're like, well, you know, we did this, but we're gonna make this way. We can't take anything and just have Elrond be racist towards dwarves. This is so cringe. I can't. Sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts for a minute here. I feel like this writer is like the living embodiment of like a soy jack. Writing a seduction romance between Sauron and Galadriel while also making Galadriel a frontline warrior captain of an army is like the most retarded non-Tolkien writing possible. No amount of your Reddit brain rot is gonna like convince people to like this that aren't terminally online schizos. This is like a whole lot of verbal diarrhea I just read to say like, you know, I like this show, and Tolkien would have too because of his secret writings, bro. So you can't disagree with me. Then there's Tom Bombadil, a fascinating character for Tolkien's legendarium we never fully understand. Tolkien disliked allegory, as evident in his letters, so the only way to understand this character is interpret him within the bounds of the story. Like Galadriel, Elrond, and Gandalf, this Bombadil also not yet be the Bombadil we know. I like the possibility that he was waiting for someone like the Istari to arrive to whom he could entrust the right guidance before he takes a complete backseat and lets the young folks figure out the rest. This guy's actually kind of a retard. I'm actually gonna probably lose my shit by the end of this. He unironically just wrote Tolkien disliked allegory. For those who don't like understand or know what that means, it means that there's something symbolic or deeper than the literal story. As in, Tolkien disliked there being a deeper meaning, be it political or moral, rather than the story just being the literal story. So he says like Tolkien dislikes allegory and then makes 90% of his arguments well actually, if you look at the deeper meaning of his secret writings, orcs being wholesome chunguses and Galadriel being a warrior makes sense. Like, how can you be so contradictory? It's crazy. Tolkien preferred applicability, which is more nuanced. Yeah. Trust me, bro, I talked to his ghost yesterday. I'm not saying you can't have your own, like, interpretations, but this is such a reach, it's crazy to me. I don't mind fanon, as long as it's not this fucking terrible and it doesn't make it so obvious that you have this weird agenda. The Rings of Power isn't concerned with being literal, and that's a good thing. Yeah, here we go, okay. The Rings of Power isn't a literal adaptation of the lore, but the spirit of Tolkien flows through it. Okay, who said that? Often like the clever layered cues of Bear McCreary's magnificent music for those willing to open their eyes, ears, and minds to listen. There are obvious nods and details embedded in the series that should delight those who love Tolkien. From the way Galadriel puts up her hair and braids during a battle, to the name-dropping of First Age of Legends, from the shrine of the Valaniana and the Numenor that Kemen destroys, to an original character like Adar the Moriondor, who sounds like an amalgamation of many First Age elves. The lore is everywhere, just waiting to be mined. This is some cope. Jesus Christ. It might all be canon, but they are born of seeds sown by Tolkien in his many writings, giving us an infinitely richer understanding of Tolkien's message than the movies could. There are also the facts that Lord of the Rings is a completely written novel, while the tales of the First and Second Ages have to be pieced together from the scattered writings of the author. You have to read everything, along with the appendices, surely grasp every possible version of the Tolkien imagined this mythology to be, to have the events of the First and Second Age depicted on screen, and have non-readers Google who Melian the Maya is, see Isildur as more than the guy who fumbled the One Ring, and try to understand the concept of the Asan way. Now that Sarna had stabbed Galadriel with Morgoth's crown warms the heart of a Tolkien nerd. Do not worry about insulting the lore. The lore is alive and well spreading. Lore is alive and well and spreading. Chat! Honestly, I think this entire article is fucking slop. It's justifying a terrible, bad faith adaptation of Lord of the Rings that is making certain choices for the purpose of, like, really weird political activism points, because this writer, I'm sure, is also a political activist. Like, what are the odds that if I click the Twitter link up here, that I'm gonna see a page that has, like, political activism? Like, what do you think the odds of that are? 100%? 90, 99? Okay. I'm gonna click it. 3, 2, 1. You can't make this shit up, that's right. That's crazy to me. Do you think this is like... Do you think this is a fed? Like, they do this on purpose or something? Do you think they do this on purpose to piss people off? I don't know. Oh, God, man. What do we see here? Is that Ironheart, chat? I see it, I see it. Chat, shocker, by the way. LGBT profile picture, even after June is over, shilling for Ironheart, and posting an article about MAGA and Superman being an immigrant. Who could have seen this one coming? Chat? Not me. Certainly not me. Does the article say Ironheart respects Stan Lee's version? Yeah, shitting all over Tony Stark sure is interpreting it that way. Yeah, you're right. I'm bamboozled. Me too, man. Anyway, like, cringe aside, this article isn't going to convince anyone that's a diehard Tolkien fan. The only reason they wrote this article is to please the Reddit mods that are fans of theirs. It's not written in good faith. It's full of, like, trust me, bro, arguments. Like, trust me, Tolkien would have loved this. Trust me, bro, it's up for interpretation. Tolkien would have approved of this. And tries to paint you as either a racist or a misogynist if you don't agree with it. Like, that was some really good slop chat. What do you think? Tasty slop. Nom 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 nom.